Welcome back. It is Marsh and Mello here for you on Canadian Football Perspective each and every week. We are very fortunate to sit down and have a great discussion around all things beer with Sawdust City Brewmaster and co-founder Sam Corbeil. He joins us here, of course, on Marsh and Mello. And I have to admit, I'm intimidated a little bit, Sam, by what we have in front of us here today. It's the highest, I believe, alcoholic value that we have of any of the beers that we have tried thus far, which I feel like it was a good idea that we decided to do this on a Thursday evening so that nothing gets out of hand. So we can just enjoy one and discuss it. But this is an aggressive style. This is an aggressive, as I say, alcoholic value in this one. It's Lusciousness, Hazelnut Latte, Imperial Milk Stout, 9.6%. When I sent this to my friends, 9.6, they went, "What the hell is that?" And I said, I don't know. I'll ask Sam that question to start tomorrow's Sawdust City Happy Hour tasting. So, Sam, what the hell is that?
Well, it's our, it's Imperial Stout, so it's what you got to bring it. So, I mean, we haven't done a stout yet, so this is great. I mean, if you're gonna do something, dive it in. So, right into the big boys at 9.6. We actually have a few other ones that are bigger than this, but I felt like this is a nice wheelhouse for Imperial Stouts. Like, we've done them higher, we've done them a little lower, but I like this somewhere in that 9.5 range because I don't know, I just feel comfortable in there, but it's a lot.
So what are the ones that you have that are higher than 9.5? I believe there was the blood of, and I don't want to mess up the last name pronunciation. So how do I say that?
Well, the blood of Cthulhu is actually 9.5.
Oh, it is.
Revenge of Cthulhu is 11.2.
Okay.
And Lord knows we need more 11.2% beers in our lives. That one, see, sometimes I still drink like I'm 20 and I think, I can totally do this. And then I totally can't. I just can't. So that's why I think 9.5 is good. Yeah. And because it's a really rich, thick beer. So it's not like, even if you wanted to, you're pretty much like you're locked in at one here. Like, it's very heavy, it's very flavorful, and it's so creamy. And like the name Lusciousness, it's like onomatopoeia. It sounds like it is. It's just luscious. It's just creamy. It's just the sound evokes this like silkiness, and this is what this is. And when you pour it, you'll see it. It's got a really dense, rich mocha head, like very dark tan head, and it sort of effervesces very slowly because the beer is so thick and the bubbles just sort of like leak slowly through the liquid.
Interesting. All right, well, let's not waste any more time. Let's crack these bad boys open because I have to admit, you guys sent me 2 cans of this, okay? And I showed one to my dad on Father's Day weekend, and I when I explained it to him, I said, "Yeah, we're going to be tasting this thing," and I said, "Do you want to crack a can with me and we can split it together and we can kind of see where it all kind of shakes out for you?" Because my dad actually really does like the darker beers. I've never been a huge fan of them, but like I say, I enjoy being able to see the full repertoire of what you guys have available in our partnership here with CFP, because I get pushed to boundaries of places that I'm not overly familiar with, which is good. Like, that's the fun of craft beer a lot of the time, is going to places that you don't expect. But I didn't end up having it with my dad, but I sent the can home with him. And I'm thrilled to get the full review from him because I think he's going to absolutely love it. Because like you say, when you say 9.5 is in your wheelhouse, Imperial Stouts are in my dad's wheelhouse.
Well, you said that he used to sit down with that big Irish ale, the Scotch ale or whatever, and that's a big heavy beer too. And that's, this into that, like, big mouthfeel. As soon as you open that can, you can smell the hazelnut. Like, it's pretty in your face.
Oh wow, yeah, that is. And see, I'm somebody who actually doesn't drink coffee. I went through a phase in life where I drank a whole bunch of coffee, and then I kind of realized, like, I don't really need this. I'm using it as a crutch kind of thing, right? And it was, even after going hard in university or something like that, I would have a coffee. It wouldn't really do it for me. Like, it wouldn't hold me over. But the smell of anything that is coffee-ish, that's hazelnut, that's roasted pecans, that's any of that type of, I guess, branch of the flavor tree, if you want to call it that, I love. So yeah, the hazelnut smell coming off of this is awesome. And I've talked with you about layering flavors and smells and all the rest before, but it's amazing how quickly that actually hits when you pour it.
It's very in your face. And this was sort of a break. Like, so LDV begot LDV coffee vanilla, which then begot this. So like every year we're just adding a little bit to it.
This is the first time I think that the Football Canada logo on my mug has looked white compared to everything.
Yeah, it's popping.
It looks like it's a gray outline. That's actually a black logo for anybody that's watching on the YouTube edition of this. And it actually looks brighter sitting next to the actual color of this. But yeah, the tiny little bit of the head, obviously, because that's typical of an Imperial Stout, correct? Where you've got that lusciousness and not super, super hoppy, anything like that bouncing around. And what are some of the other notes that you want people to know about this? Maybe if they're listening to this and they're sipping back and enjoying one, or maybe they're thinking about getting a lusciousness from you guys at sawdustcitybeer.com.
Well, there's a little bit of there's still the coffee in the background, which is that's the latte part of it, and then we did still use a copious amount of it. The vanilla was dialed back on this one a bit to let the hazelnut come through some more, but we still have those big roasted notes of the LDV. And like as you said about coffee and the smells of coffee, the brew house on a stout brew day is exactly that. It's like first thing in the morning, you get the roast hits the mash tun in the water, and it just smells like coffee. It's so roasty and so chocolatey, and I love that smell. So making stouts is my favorite pleasures of being a brewer. It's just the brew house smells fantastic, especially like first thing in the morning. Sometimes it can be tough on the runoff, but like it's all worth it in the end. It's usually a laborious brew day, but I'm a big stout fan, so we do a lot of different stouts and we play around with it a lot. Like you can see, like it just the head that just sits on top, like it's just super.
I did ask the question on Twitter whether anybody had any questions for you going into this tasting, and the response that I got back that I enjoyed the most was from Andy Beckler, and he asked on Twitter, what would you describe as the relationship between beer and coffee? You went into it a little bit there, talking about the smell and how it actually feels almost like a coffee house, but in general, the relationship between these two, because every liquid has some sort of relationship or connection or the way they interact with each other, but coffee and beer, at face value, people that aren't brewers, they might not think of it as having a direct connection, but man, there's a lot of things that are kind of tying the two together.
Well, I think the easiest way to get into it is through how the roasted barley is sort of like on the same plane as the roasted coffee bean. Like it goes through a roasting. When you look at a roasted barley kernel, it is like charred black. And like when you add the liquid, you get that same dark liquid like you would from a coffee bean. I learned a lot about coffee as we went through the learning about how to make LDV coffee vanilla. We worked with some different roasters, and the variability of different coffees and where you get it, the terroir of where the beans from and how they fermented and then roast it. Like there's a huge flavor variation that I had no idea about. I think we all grew up with the idea that coffee is black and then you add sugar and cream. Right. I mean, there's a whole world out there. As much as like craft beer is, there's these craft roasteries and small roasteries all over Ontario and Canada, all over the world. And this particular coffee bean comes from Honduras and then is roasted here in Ontario. And we used whole beans, and in the past, he used to cold steep it for us, so you wouldn't get the bitterness as much as you would just get the flavor, and it worked really well with LDV. But then this year, we actually, it sort of like dry beaned it, like instead of dry hopping, we actually added the beans right to the tank. And we found, it was a lot easier and way cheaper for us to do it that way. We're going to continue to use that method in the future, but I think, that's sort of where it begins, but there's so many different ways you can use coffee and beer. Like there are coffee IPAs, there are coffee pale ales, there's coffee blonde ales, because you can get lighter roasted, fruit forward coffees that work well with some hoppier notes. And there are white stouts with coffee, and is so many different variations because there's wherever the imagination can take you. And because both of them are such versatile liquids that you can just find any marriage in there. And for me, this is like the simplest, easiest this tastes like this. We should put them together. And it works.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great answer, honestly, because there is so much variability between the two of them that you can apply them however you want. And that lends to your imagination as a brewer, which I can totally understand why you enjoy working with it. I'm a big Curb Your Enthusiasm fan. And one of my favorite episodes is Larry David figuring out that he should start Latte Larry's. He should start up his own coffee shop. This was last season in Curb Your Enthusiasm. And he finds out that he actually has a friend who has a connection to a dealer who has the beans. You got to get the beans. The beans make everything. The beans are the main thing that really decide everything for you. You mentioned these are from Honduras and they are brought up here and then they're actually used and put into the process in Ontario. But what is the process when you are thinking of using that coffee essence in a beer? What is the process of actually getting the right bean? Choose, because as much as you say, yeah, these ones are their quality and we trust them and we know where they're coming from and all the rest, and you still have to find ones that really match what you are going to try to do when you're crafting.
We've gone for cuppings where you sample a bunch of different small bits of coffee roast drip from these different beans, and you find the ones like there's some are more acidic, some are fruitier, some are roastier, and you just do the cuppings right, and then you try it with the beer and you work with the different notes. So like there is a process. It wasn't just like, oh, that one. It was, we sit down and we tasted it, and we really, really liked how this Catchy Duke Honduran bean worked. And we've used it for 3 years now. I just tried a coffee this week that was given to us by a roastery in Newmarket. And I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I wish I could. But it was a bourbon barrel aged coffee bean. So the beans were actually rested in bourbon barrels, and then you grind the coffee and you make your coffee. And wowzers. Like the bourbon quality, like the aroma was insane. And I really liked it. My wife was a little taken aback. She's like, it smells so boozy. Like there's no booze in it. I don't think there is, but the essence is so there and so entrenched in the bean that it just, even when you pour the pot, like what was left and you're rinsing it from the day before, it was like pure boozy aroma coming off the pot. It was insane. Really? And I really enjoyed it. And we have another bag that we're going to try. The brewers, and they approached us to see if we can make some beer with it. I think obviously like those flavor parallels, they just cross over, and I guess it wouldn't make a parallel of that. I mean, they intertwine. Yeah. So it would be an incredible experience to try that. I got to reach back out to the guy. It was really a unique experience. I had never had anything like it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And again, that goes back to the kind of variability and the multiplicity of what you're talking about, right? Where it doesn't have to be, well, we get the beans and then we combine them with the alcohol. It's like, well, what if we just put the beans in the bourbon barrel and then we go from there? And I love the idea of that too, because people, I mean, for that place in Newmarket, I'm not going to say that's a jackpot because who knows what the sales are, but the idea of people, popping the Baileys in during the cold weather, it's like, well, when you want a coffee that just kind of has the essence that you're talking about, that kind of runs that way because those two things do intertwine so seamlessly.
Yeah, and my wife's like, it's like a Spanish coffee. Like, it was like, it's first thing on a Saturday morning. Maybe it's not exactly like a little bit much, but like I really enjoyed it. Like it's the same. I found the same sort of parallels when we do bourbon barrel aged beer. Like you get this rich, fudgy toffee character, and I really like that. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. But that's just, it was in my wheelhouse. But I wish I remembered. Now I feel really bad that I don't remember the name.
Let me know afterwards, and I'll make sure that we give them a shout out here in the YouTube video and everything and all the rest, because that does sound really intriguing. And I love when people are pushing boundaries on that stuff, whether it's liquids as coffee and using bourbon barrel aged stuff, or if it's liquids as beer that use the beans, or it's, I mean, like you say, the twist and the tie of all those things together is pretty intriguing. The last thing that I want to ask you here, Sam, before I let you go, is just how things are going up there, because I know we've talked the last couple of weeks when people hopefully have been checking in here on our YouTube page and seeing what you guys are up to and being able to obviously enjoy our Father's Day video last week. I saw some great throwback stuff that you guys had. You were promoting Dave's Affordable Dortmunder and some of the other kind of dad themed beers as well over the weekend. And we're starting to enter towards stage 2, which is great for CFL fans because it looks like in Ontario, that's going to be 25% of people in the stands. And hopefully as we get closer and closer towards the start of the regular season, when the Ticats play their first home game on Labor Day, then we're going to have hopefully 100% or as much as we possibly can to get close to that. But we're getting that positive momentum. We're getting good things happening. And I imagine for you guys, it's starting to feel a little bit more normal.
Yeah, it's really exciting. You know, that announcement today with the moving into phase 2 on June 30th. That's amazing. Canada Day weekend's always a huge weekend for us. It used to be our Funk Fest weekend where we had our sour and funky beer festival at Sawdust City. As much as it's not happening this year, we are really, you know, it's still a big weekend for us. And, you know, as the momentum builds, we want to remind people that Funk Fest is still alive and kicking, and it will be back. Much like the CFL is coming back, so will Funk Fest. And because of that, we released our first beer in our kettle sour series, our Coriolis Effect variants, yesterday, and then Coriolis Effect came out today. So the first one was pineapple Scotch bonnet pepper. If you check out our YouTube channel or Twitter or Instagram, you'll see a video of a few of us trying to eat raw Scotch bonnet peppers, which they are hot and it's punishing. I mean, in the video, you can see the immediate effect of how hot it is. It's like 20 minutes later, it's way worse. the intense heat at the beginning, like the sweating and the crying, but it's the gut pain later.
You gotta vet the peppers, okay, Sam? Always vet the peppers. That's the rule.
I actually mentioned the sort of the Russian roulette of peppers, where some of them are like, you're perfectly fine, and then the next one your face is melting. And I mean, I like hot stuff, so this beer is the first one, the pineapple Scotch bonnet, and then we have it's spicy, but I don't think it's overly hot, and it's got a nice kick to it. We used like over 150 Scotch bonnet peppers. We roasted them and de-seeded them ourselves, and I find it quite unique. And then next week we'll have our blueberry lavender and salted mango. We also have some funky beers in our Limberlost coming out that are out right now. So we do have a lot of those staples that you would have found at Funk Fest. So, you know, we want to keep that positive vibe going and hopefully remind people the next summer when things are, you know, crossing fingers, back to normal, we'll be able to have this festival and invite everybody back to Sawdust. Our patios has been open for the last couple of weeks. Fortunately, I mean, the weather hasn't been the greatest since we've opened. And in the foreseeable future, I haven't seen 9 days in a row like that. I don't think in my life, just straight rain. What happened? But whatever. I mean, still positive vibes.
Yes. And again, as we said before, much better days coming. We all know that. But I will say, for people maybe that are listening here to the Marshmallow podcast that haven't checked out our videos on YouTube previously, go check out sawdustcitybeer.com, because you might not get a sense necessarily yet of the total wide variety, the selection that's available. But I love so much that just when I think I have a handle on what your guys' staples are and some of the things you're messing around with, you're like, yeah, we got like these 3 other things coming out, and then we got like this 2 other things coming out in July, and then we got a seasonal, and then we're lining this thing up for the fall, and then it's just there's an assembly line of different stuff. Which if you ever think, you know, oh, I'm bored, I've had a Sawdust City beer before. Whoa, no, you need to relax and wait for the next thing to come out, because Sam is constantly pushing the boundaries and having fun with it. So I hope that you guys get some sun. I hope that you get a chance to be able to invite lots of people out during Canada Day weekend, and we'll go with something maybe not as, this might be the darkest beer that I have the entire summer, Sam, but I am loving it. So thank you.
And you know what? It actually will be at the LCBO next fall. I neglected to mention that. It will be at LCBO shelves. So look for that late fall, early winter. Lusciousness will be at the LCBO.
Amazing. That is going to be a hit. There's a lot of people that listen to our podcast that I know that are either Ticats or Argos fans in Ontario that are constantly sending me pictures of dark ass beers. They love the dark beers when they're watching games, because you can sit here like this with one for a half a game or a full game and enjoy it, right? Like you say, because it is so smooth, but it does, it holds you honest, I would say, more than anything else up at that 9.5. So Sam, cheers. As always, great to catch up with you. Thanks for being on with us. And we're looking forward to chatting with you again next week.
Cheers. Have a good weekend, Marshall.